Spinning, spinning. What is up, wrestling fans? This says you are live, Kevin. We are live directly after WrestleMania. No, should we call it
No,
WrestleMania Hell in a Cell? I mean, everything's branded as WrestleMania now. I don't know. I'm
there
so
was
confused. It's like the summer of WrestleMania. We
there
are
there
live
was
after
a
not WrestleMania Hell in a Cell, just plain old Hell in a Cell.
plain old Hell in a Cell for the first time in the middle of summer instead of its normal October time frame, and also the very last WWE pay-per-view in the Thunderdome. So say goodbye to the Thunderdome and virtual fans. The next time they're on pay-per-view, we got an audience again. So I guess in some ways, Doug, this is sort of an end of an era.
I guess it is. I guess, yeah, yeah. End of an
Yeah.
era. Goodbye, Thunderdome.
So let's, before we get into spoiler territory and talk about the winners and losers of tonight's event, and folks, if you saw it, please chime in as well and let us know what you thought. But for those who maybe are watching us and have not yet seen the pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell. To me, this one there was more good than bad, so definitely watch it. And again, we'll get into the specifics. But Doug, I really feel like this just highlighted how much better right now SmackDown is than Raw. I mean, the SmackDown content in general was so much stronger. I felt kind of bad for the Raw announce team. I'm like, oh, you all don't have as much heavy lifting to do because there's a lot more intriguing storylines going on the SmackDown side. And that's after they had already removed Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio and put them on SmackDown on Friday night instead.
And I really don't understand why that happened, but that's probably we could probably do a whole show on inexplicably moving that to a Friday and just pulling Reigns off of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
But I have to agree. The Raw matches were meh. Well, other than the main event.
Main event.
And
Absolutely.
I,
Main
and I
event
do
was
have some
great.
problem with some finishes, but overall, this was a pretty good Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I agree. Because though it was so SmackDown heavy, I will say that I'm probably noticed even more than I normally would. It was a really good night for Pat McAfee on the announce desk.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that dude has taken like a hand in glove to his new position, but first time really being able to show that on pay per view. The guy is feeling it and had an excellent night. So why you say let's get to it.
Let's dive in. Hey, Kevin, I actually saw the pre-show tonight.
Hey, Doug, I actually didn't. So we're reversing roles here. I missed the pre show for the first time. Let us know what happened. Let me know what happened.
So Natalia defeated Mandy Rose. Tamina was in Natalia's corner, Dana Brooke in Mandy's corner. But I think both these girls looked really, really great tonight, and I thought this was a great way to kick off. Have the opening act there in the pre-show to lead right into the pay-per-view. I thought it was a really good match.
Better than some of the things that
Natty
maybe were.
is Natty's a solid worker all the way around, and I think I'm not sure where Mandy Rose has been hiding. Maybe is she Raw? I don't know. Maybe that's why I haven't actually seen her in a while because I tend not to watch Raw. But
Yeah.
Mandy Rose was pretty impressive to me tonight.
Yeah, Mandy, I think is underrated overall. So that maybe is a match that I need to go and check out. So I guess you recommend that if folks have a little extra time and didn't see the pre-show, they go watch that one match.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I was entertained and I was really impressed with Mandy. So kudos to the opening act there.
And kudos to you for actually catching it for a change on the night that I happen to miss it. That is two bros synergy for you right there. Not planned, switching roles.
Yep.
Doug, let's switch into the main pay per view then, because we kick off strong by lowering that cell down, doing the traditional thing of having two cell matches, one to open and one to close. We open with, and folks, now we're getting into spoiler territory. So if you haven't yet known and don't want to know, we're about to tell you that your women's champion is still Bianca Belair.
And still,
And still putting off the challenge over on the SmackDown side from Bayley. Doug, what'd you think of this one?
you know, these girls are great workers. I got a little annoyed with all the hair gimmicks. I mean, it's part of the Bianca character, but you can only use the hair to tie up the champ or have the champ tie up the opponent with the hair so many times, and I really think they went to the well way too many times with that tonight.
Yeah.
It became a distraction for me.
Tied to the rope. Her hair was tied to a chair. Then she began to use her hair as a weapon itself by tying Bailey's wrist and then flicking her
Mm-hmm.
over and around. And I get it. I like when they use the hair as a weapon, as a whip, sparingly. But on the NXT brand, she never overutilized that gimmick. When she pulled it out, it was to leave a whelp on someone's back, and now it's become maybe they're too reliant on it, and I know that has to be probably Vince or the main roster, producers behind the scenes telling her, that's your gimmick, work the hair, work the hair, work the hair. And I agree. I think with that, less is more. She is so
Mm-hmm.
much more with her strength and her ability. I'd hate to see her defined as just, she's
Right.
the girl with the long ponytail, and therefore that's her whole gimmick, because
Yeah,
she's so
she's
much more than
the
that.
hair champion. Yeah. But
Uh,
overall, great match. I mean,
yeah,
you're going to get a great match out of these two. I mean,
I love the sunset flip near the cage that Bianca used to put Bailey back into the cage. It looked fantastic, and I loved the ending. That was prime right there. The KOD onto the
mhm.
ladder looked great, and still your champion, which is the right call. Bailey doesn't need that belt right now, and I
Nope.
think that we're still building the legacy of Bianca Belair as champion. So I'm curious to see who her next opponent is. Might it be someone we haven't seen in a while, Doug?
Yeah, I'm wondering about that too because it seemed like a great time for SummerSlam, or at least when we get back on the road leading to WrestleMania SummerSlam, that Becky Lynch make her return in front of a live crowd.
And we have another possible return coming, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, when it comes to the other Cell match, because there was actually in my mind a thought that some of the big news coming out of tonight may not be winners and losers, but as who makes a return. Sasha,
Mm-hmm.
uh, as you forementioned, the man making her return, Becky Lynch, or someone we might be expecting to see in the men's main event later on, who also didn't. But I think you hit it key right there. I think that they probably took the obvious moment of this would be a great spot normally, but 3 weeks from now, we're going to have to do this pay-per-view thing again in front of
Right.
people. And you just want that pop, right? I mean, these
Absolutely.
names, any of these names that we're alluding to here are so big that you're going to get a reaction, and you get no reactions that aren't pre-recorded right now. So save it. I'm fine for that.
Yep.
Makes perfect business sense. Now, business sense. Let's go into the next match. All right. So we got a rematch from WrestleMania, Doug. Here you go. Your WrestleMania Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
Actually, not a rematch from WrestleMania Backlash, which was the after effect of a run in at WrestleMania. So this is a long gestating program, but hey, I'm fine with that when these two men are involved. Cesaro, Rollins picks up the win this time. So it's now we're 1-1. Doug, hot start to this one. Massive power slam that just was a great 360 twerk there to get over Rollins by the very powerful Cesaro. I love the swing spot as always. I know he has to get his stuff in, but it was 15, 20 revolutions this time around.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I might quibble with in this one, and I love the contest, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, is the finish. And
I
the
hated
finish
this
came,
finish.
yeah, it
Hated
was a
this
roll
finish.
up. It was a roll up, and you can do that a time or two and sparingly. But as we'll get into, Doug, unfortunately, this was not the only time they went for a cheap finish tonight.
Nope, no, and these are the problems I had with some of the finishes. This being one of them. I just don't like the surprise roll up has become. I don't know. It really is the most devastating move in sports entertainment at this point.
I understand it from a booking standpoint that it is an easy way out to say that somebody didn't win or lose legitimately, and therefore this must continue. But you can only get away with that. I'll give you one a show at the most. When you do it multiple times on a pay per view, you know, maybe
Mhm.
you can do it twice on a 3 hour Raw if you space it out enough. But even that's one too many. But if this was the only one tonight, I'd be all right. Well, at least we get to see Rollins and Cesaro again. But it's not the only one tonight, so I had a little bit of a problem with the finish. But the rest of the match, were you cool with the way it went down? Are you fine for
Dude,
Rollins getting the
It's
win back?
Rollins and Cesaro. Everything was great.
So do you think that now, tied 1-1, that rubber match happens in front of fans at Money in the Bank? Or do you think they have juice in this to go somehow to all the way to SummerSlam?
I would love to see it go all the way to SummerSlam, but I it will probably end at the next pay per view where we're live.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that they, when you got tied 1-on-1, the only way to get this to SummerSlam and have one guy legitimately act as if the business is unfinished is if you have some sort of cop out at the next pay per view with a third match, so you have to do a fourth with some sort of stipulation at SummerSlam or something along those lines.
Unless both of these men end up in a Money in the Bank ladder match, and
Ah,
then they end up negating each other's chances, which takes the feud on to SummerSlam.
I
Actually,
yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, that's the way I'd book it.
I
Just to
wasn't
go,
even thinking that you wouldn't have to have these two face each other 1-on-1 to have a rubber match, and you could keep this feud going by just having them in the same match and save the rubber match for down the line. So yes,
yeah,
neither of them are going to win Money in the Bank, but both of them are going to cost the other one their chance at Money in the Bank.
totally the way I'd book it anyway.
Well, hopefully Vince is watching tonight. We know that he likes the show.
I hope he is, because this next match, this Alexa Bliss, Shayna Baszler, just stop,
This
please,
is this is the
just
this is
stop.
when Jimmy Smith and got to have his pay per view debut. And poor guy, he is so good on Monday nights and has shown an aptitude for the business. This has to be the first match you call, and it's nothing against Baszler, who is a believable shoot fighting heel, or Alexa Bliss, who is extremely talented. Always have loved me some Little Miss Bliss, but this is the first time we've seen Alexa work in a while. She actually has been an on-screen character and has been out of the ring for I don't know how many months.
Right?
Actually, it's been, and I think what's interesting for me watching this is that Alexa Bliss, who we know is an accomplished wrestler, is now a gimmick wrestler because of the new gimmick. So she's not doing her normal move set and psychology. Now it's all about the theatrics and the funky walks and the pantomimes and the controlling Nia Jax from the inside the ring to slap poor Reginald the sommelier who's there first because wrestling, right?
Because wrestling, exactly.
So
Because wrestling.
yeah, I mean, I guess we should note that Alexa was your winner in this contest, but I I'm fine for characters in wrestling, and I'm actually fine for her sort of taking over the Bray Wyatt gimmick and putting a female spin on it. I just I hate to see a wrestler who's that talented get limited to what they can do in the ring because now they have to wrestle the gimmick instead of just
Yep.
wrestle.
Yeah.
And then
But
from
back to
that, Doug,
wrestling.
but back to wrestling.
Back to
Back from
wrestling.
Raw, back to SmackDown is what we have. Right?
Well,
two pretty good opening SmackDown contests. Some Raw, like come on guys, and now back to some really good SmackDown wrestling. Again, just really highlighting like how much they have it over the Red brand right now. But I know this match didn't have a ton of build up because it was just booked within the last week, I think, on SmackDown. But it never needs any build up, and I'm
so what are you
sorry.
talking about? There's like 20 years of build up here.
That's exactly. You could put it on any night of the week at any pay per view without any notice. And Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens have that history that people are going to buy into, and then they'll have a match that could always come very close to stealing the show. Well, who wouldn't want to see it every night? That swanton to the outside when Owens went for the swanton, Sammy got his knees up, was fantastic. Then there was the firing up shots with the false finish with that blue thunder bomb, and then their flurry of offense. Both of them on their knees, punching each other very stiffly, as you only would your best friend, right?
Right? Sammy got some color there.
The
I
hard
love.
way.
Yeah, these two could legit fight forever, and nobody who calls themselves a wrestling fan is ever going to complain about it. I mean, it was thrown together at the last minute, but for me, this is when I think the card really kicked into high gear. Maybe it was coming off this supernatural gimmick nonsense or whatever, but I mean, these two just took it over the edge, and things just continued from there for me. I don't know about you.
I also think that not only was this where it picked up, I was not only happy with the match, as we all knew we would be, but I was pleasantly surprised by the outcome. For as often as we've seen Owens, Zayn, or Steen Generico,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, Kevin Owens is the one coming out on top. And I think at
Right.
this point, Sammy definitely needs that win more than Kevin does. So I think that the booking here was smart. And hey, if it keeps it going for another pay per view, we all just win.
Right. And I love the psychology, keep calling back to, the Nigerian nail from like Friday, or two Nigerian nails from Friday night, and Owens having trouble breathing throughout and just working over each other.
Yeah.
It's just great. I
Played
mean,
into the finish with him falling on the bottom rope throat first, and then still after the match,
yes.
and Sammy's gloating, he's in the ring selling like water. Like I'm having trouble breathing. Fantastic work by all involved, as expected, I suppose. And then we move on, and these last two matches are Raw matches, and I will say that both of these were on the better end, even though overall I think it was SmackDown's night. But champion Rhea Ripley defending her Raw Women's Championship against our pick, Doug, what we had was Charlotte Flair winning this one. We are right, but unfortunately, they took
Mm-hmm.
what was turning out into a great contest. And this is where I minded it more than I did with Cesaro and Rollins, because that
I agree.
must continue, but it was still a finish with an actual finish. No one likes a DQ finish. This one ended in a DQ finish. Flair wins when Ripley hits Flair with a piece of the announce desk. I love the top rope drop kick that Rhea pulled
Mm-hmm.
out. I don't think I'd ever seen her do that before. That Riptide was obviously way too close to the rope, so we knew the fall wasn't happening there. But I just had in my notes here, bad finish. I don't know what more to say at this
Bad
point in the
finish.
finish.
There was a great spot with Charlotte where she does a moonsault. Ripley rolls out of the way. Charlotte lands on her feet. Another moonsault from the mat and nails it, which I thought was
That was
beautiful. And and I'm
beautiful.
thinking
Yeah,
Charlotte
beautiful.
is so amazingly athletic, and this was so great until that bad finish.
And
It,
I had some non-wrestling fans that were with me that I was talking some of this stuff through and explaining wrestling
right.
to non-wrestling fans, and mentioning that sometimes when you have these kind of finishes, it's either a way to prolong a feud to the next pay-per-view by not having a decisive winner, or in some cases it's an issue of someone not liking the finish or not wanting to do the finish and have a creative control sort of thing in their contract. I know that Flair is a very powerful name in this industry, and I know a lot of people think she's held the belt too many times at this point, which I don't necessarily agree with. But do you think tonight was a matter of just someone behind the scenes, be it the agents and the writers, or Flair herself, that just knows this feud needs to continue but didn't want to lose?
What in my armchair booking mind kicked in immediately after my the Mark brain calmed down a minute from that from that finish was I started thinking with the banter between them after the match where Charlotte's like, okay, you're learning. Rhea Ripley's like, hey, I just did what you would have done to me. What I would like to see spin out of this is maybe Charlotte does take a break from the title hunt. We start building this, respect from this match, and we start telling a story where Charlotte takes Ripley under her wing and teaches her to also become the dirtiest player in the game. And I would love to see a mentor role here. It's totally not going to happen. You know, that banter at the end, just like that banter at the beginning, you know, like lesson one, lesson two, and then that at the end totally isn't going to go anywhere like that, you know. But I would love to see something like that because, yeah, I want to see Charlotte, you know, your 25 time female champion, you
Yeah.
know. But I have no problem with as many times. But, you know, I would love to see Ripley keep them out. A respect angle start to build from this and just kind of play on that. That ain't going to happen, but I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see something different than what we saw, to be quite
Yeah,
honest. And I love both of these women, and I think Rhea Ripley is going to be fantastic. But I have to say, just because the fact that we have two brands under the same umbrella and the two champions get crowned in a WrestleMania weekend, it's not fair. But it's just the fact that we compare one to the other. And if you want to talk about where Bianca Belair is as opposed to where Rhea Ripley is, in far as believability or credibility at this point, you had Sasha Banks and then Bailey put you over. This was a chance for a legend like that and a Flair to put over Rhea Ripley, and it hasn't happened. And Rhea needs it more.
Agreed. Yeah, and I'm still kind of confused about who the face and who the heel is and all this. I'm assuming Rhea's supposed to be the face, but I'm not sure.
And
I really just don't know with the Raw
David,
booking, but
David Poole has a point here where there was a lot that we didn't see tonight. Well, we had these title matches should have definitive finishes. When you're
mhm,
only having a few of these belts actually defended on the pay per view, that's more reason not to do the cop out finish
agreed.
because we had our SmackDown men's title match on Friday night instead of the pay per view. So that means when we have these other title matches, and I kind of get that if you're going to have two Hell in a Cell matches on the show, three is definitely overkill. It can be said that two is kind of overkill, and maybe that's a good way to segue into this next match. When we think Hell in a Cell, Doug, first, I love this main event. I love it, but
Mhm.
I don't necessarily, as much as I love the Hell in a Cell gimmick, I don't know that I like the Hell in a Cell pay per view. Hey,
Yeah,
it's that time of year. It's time to do Hell in a Cell. It makes it harder to make these things special, especially
mhm.
when you now have multiple versions of these on the same show. The best Hell in a Cell probably still the very first one they ever did with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Obviously, the most famous one was when Undertaker switched it up to a different opponent. After that, though, they started coming so frequently. This has to be probably in the 30, 40 range now, as far as how many of these there's been.
Oh
And
wow. Yeah.
it just makes it harder and harder to make each of them more distinct. So I don't know with a lot of these Hell in a Cells of the last few years, including tonight, that the cell part of it was necessary for, I think that Drew and Lashley would have had an amazing match without the cell because it did come into play more than it did during Rhea Ripley and Bailey there at the beginning, only because of some outside shenanigans we're going to get into here. But Lashley is still your champion, Doug, and this, of course, had the stipulation on it that if Drew did not win, he would not have another shot at that title as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. What do you think
Mhm.
in general, Doug, of the Hell in a Cell concept being used so often? And do you think they utilized it well in this instance? And what do you think of the match itself?
So, you know, I was thinking along the exact same lines of, you know, the Hell in a Cell should be a very special match and not a pay per view at all. And you know, there's a commercial in there for Broken Skull Sessions with Mick Foley where Mick is talking about, you know, there's a little blurb during Hell in a Cell where Mick's talking about that defining match of his and the match that he's known for. And I think everybody probably does think of that when they think Hell in a Cell. And you know, I think early on, folks in WWE tried to gimmick that to hey, remember this? Well, it's going to happen again. We're going to have those crazy high spots and all that. don't
Yeah.
really need that because I think the guys tonight did a great Hell in a Cell without getting like really well. It was very brutal, but nobody climbed the cell. Nobody went off the top of the cell. Spoilers, but
Yeah.
nobody went off the top of the cell or anything like that, and it was just fine. So you can do a really good Hell in a Cell without having that very very gimmicky setup like Taker Mankind back in the day. I
Once
do think.
somebody's fallen off of the top of the cell, and like the third one they ever did of these things, there really is nowhere else to go with making it more extreme. So you're right.
Absolutely.
You have to limit how often you use it, and then make it mean something when you do. I do wish, and maybe this is going to sound brutal, but this is one of those like exceptions where if you got a little color, like if back in the day we see teeth hanging out of men's noses and folks flying off of cages, and now you have these brutal like be all end all constructions around the ring, and you don't bleed. I would like to see a little bit of, but they made for up for it with this one with some brutal looking whelps along the back of the Scottish Drew McIntyre. That white Scottish skin really shows the purple when you smack it around with those kendo sticks, and boy did it ever.
Yes, I mean this was a very brutal match. It looked great. I thought early on that they were just going to have Drew run the table and be done with this, and we would have been on like half hour ago the way the match started. It's
Yeah.
like but Bobby had his comeback, and they just went back and forth. It was great. Like you said, there were shenanigans. At one point, Drew accidentally takes out a ref. He's nailed a claymore on Bobby, ready to count, realizes, hey, I need a conscious ref in the ring in the cell, demands that a ref come in. So one of the outside refs unlocks and comes in, but so does MVP.
So does MVP. And before that, he was just relegated to, what all he could stick through a fence. So here's a cane to jab. And I mean, I love that type of heel work. I just thought MVP is underrated, folks, in
Yes.
what he's doing right now with Bobby Lashley. But yes, because MVP was in the ring, he got himself beat around a little bit, but was there to help with a finish and pull the leg of McIntyre before he could hit the finishing move. And yet we get our third sort of cheap finish of the night because it was another roll up, except I
I
guess this
know.
time it was a pull of the tights. So
I
again,
hate it, man. I hate the finish with this one too. Not
yeah,
necessarily because Drew lost. It's time to move Drew on to other things. It's time for Bobby to be looking for a bigger, badder opponent at
yeah.
SummerSlam. Maybe somebody Drew's defeated before for the title.
Maybe someone that used to dabble in the same sort of mixed martial arts that Bobby Lashley used to dabble in, right?
Hey, again, I'm saying it a lot tonight, but that's the way I'd book it, man.
We did allude to it earlier because it's strongly rumored that Brock Lesnar is returning in time for SummerSlam. It makes good business sense. It makes good. It's a good visual when you line these two up together on a poster. I think it's probably a good move because it's a match we've not seen before, unlike with Drew. And it's no offense against Drew, and we've obviously seen
Absolutely.
him. We've seen him enough now with Lashley. They got good chemistry together. But you're right. I think for both of them to grow, especially Lashley, I think Drew's made. I think Lashley as champion needs more than one definitive opponent. If he can
Yes.
go on and have a memorable contest on a big stage against the Brock Lesnar, then that's definitely your memorable opponent. But David Poole asked the question, Doug, who's the heel in that match? I have my thoughts. What do you think?
Well, again, Brock Lashley, who's the heel?
Yeah, who's the heel?
Man, I don't know. WWE has the thing where there's not a lot of heel action. Sometimes, no, there's not. It's not that there's not a lot of heel action. I can't tell who the heels are sometimes. Like I was saying with Ripley and Flair from earlier, I, and Brock v. Lashley. I'm not sure. And also, since this would be a Raw, do we see Heyman jumping over to Raw to be the counsel for Lashley, and then back to SmackDowns on Friday night?
I bet the tribal chief will not allow that. I bet you that he stays strong to his current client, and I say that WWE at least thinks that Brock Lesnar is going to be the face in this instance because they tend to believe that when a wrestler, a big name, makes their return, that fans are so excited to see them that they naturally are going to be the face and cheer them, and then you turn them, the next pay-per-view if you need to. But this is going to be back in front of an audience. So it's going to be the audience that
Yeah.
decides whether or not that who's the face and who's the heel. Because I believe in my heart of hearts that Vince thinks that Brock Lesnar's been gone long enough that he's going to come back against the heel, and people are going to be so excited to see him and so excited to see Lashley possibly lose that they're going to cheer him. I do not know that the WWE audience, historically speaking, with their attitudes towards Lesnar, are going to follow along, and that will be very interesting to see if they change anything based on those reactions, because they have not had to worry about reactions in a year and a half.
This is very true, but I'm thinking as soon as Lesnar's music hits in front of a live audience, there will be a massive, massive pop, just because every fan in attendance is going to realize what it means.
And
When we
and
see
those
Lash.
same fans that maybe were like, tired of seeing a part-time champion as a challenger coming back for a special event, and for just seeing a match they hadn't seen before. I think you're probably right, and if so, there's the answer to the question that Lashley is being kept strong as the heel because they fully expect fans to embrace Lesnar as the face.
There we go. Much like I imagine we'll see Cena Reigns at SummerSlam too.
And Lesnar without Heyman,
Yes.
as David Poole said, would be very different. I think that is also the reason why Heyman stays with the tribal chief, because it's more likely to get Lesnar cheered than people love Paul. They love to boo Paul, and that makes him the obvious heel when you have Heyman at your side. Another reason to keep them separate.
Very, very true. Very true. But yeah, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're fantasy booking the two pay-per-views down the road right now.
That's right. As we inch closer and closer to real fans returning, this is the last pay-per-view, and I will say that they have done a tremendous job under the circumstances to keep wrestling fresh and interesting, and finding new ways of presenting it, finding what didn't work sometimes to get to what would work. But there is going to be nothing like it when we have fans back. We saw that with WrestleMania. We've seen what AEW has done now that they've been having some full houses for their recent pay-per-view. I cannot wait for Money in the Bank, because it does mean the end to this awful period of that third element being missing. You have the heel, you have the face, but you have the crowd, and they three work in tandem. So we get the crowd back, Doug.
Yes, we do.
And that's
so what are we doing next
week?
What are we doing next week, Kevin?
We're back at 8:00, our normal time, because it's not a pay-per-view, Doug. So you get a break on that. You get a break on the pay-per-view, but we do have a heavy topic, but one I think is of great interest to everyone who has been a wrestling fan, as we discuss next Sunday at 8:00, the complicated legacy of Chris Benoit. Obviously, one of the best technical wrestlers of all time, whose entire persona is now going to be clouded by what he did in real life, and the tragedy that was the murder-suicide of the Benoit family. And it does make it difficult as to how you assess a career and a body of work under those kind of circumstances, when that's the first thing you think of. We're going to talk about all of that and our thoughts on how 14 years later, that's why we're doing the show, because it was 14 years ago this June that the Benoit murder-suicide tragedy occurred. And so we're going to revisit a little bit about that period and time, how it's changed the wrestling industry, and how now we can separate, or if we can even separate, the man from the art, and what happened and why it happened. All of that is next Sunday at 8:00. So a bit of a heavy topic, but one I think is going to be of great interest to wrestling fans. So we hope everyone joins us next week at 8.
Absolutely. So until then, take care of each other, stay safe, and go watch some wrestling. Kevin has something else to say before I hit the end button.
I do, because we have dads who watch this show, regular viewers I know, and we have our own dad here as one of the two bros to a wonderful little boy there. So Doug, happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there watching. Thank you, and thank you all for tuning in.
Happy Father's Day, everybody. Stay safe.